After I placed the letter into the trunk, I sat in silence, my palms resting on the wooden lid. The house was dark, the lamp burning low, but inside me a strange light flickered. I had poured my love into words. Even if my arms stayed empty, my truth would live. I rose slowly, wrapping my shawl around my shoulders, and sat beside the empty cradle one last time. The wood creaked softly as I touched it, the same cradle that once held my daughter. My eyes blurred with tears as I whispered, "You once slept here, Betty. You once clutched my finger in the dark, trusting me with your whole world. And today, you tell me I am your shame. But shame does not live in MIT, lives in the hearts that forget." The night stretched long, but I did not cry. Instead, I let memory wash over me like a tide. Every hunger I had endured, every storm I had faced, every prayer I had whispered, all of it had been for her. And now, the cycle repeated. My love, once denied by her, had found its way to her child. Because love does not stop at walls. Love finds cracks. Love seeps through silence. Love waits until it is discovered, even if years pass. If you believe no mother or grandmother should ever be erased from her family, please like, share, and comment respect. Let's honor every silent sacrifice that built us. As dawn crept through the window, painting the sky pale pink, I stood at the door. I looked out at the street where I had once walked with pride, holding her hand, listening to her laughter. The neighbors passed by, some with pity in their eyes, some with silence, but I lifted my head. Let them whisper, let them look. I had nothing to hide. My clothes might be faded, my slippers cracked, but my dignity shone brighter than any silk, any gold, any jewels her in-laws could parade. I pressed my hands together and whispered one final prayer. God, keep him safe. Let him grow with kindness, with courage. And one day, let him know me not through introductions, not through photos, not through stories told by others, but through the truth that flows in his blood. Let him know that his grandmother loved him before he ever opened his eyes. I stepped back into my house, closing the door softly behind me. I may not stand in the hospital ward, I may not hold the newborn in my arms, but no child of my blood can ever erase me completely. Because I am the root, because I am the soil, because I am the prayer whispered at every dawn. They can shut doors, they can silence names, they can call me shame, but they cannot stop blood from remembering. And when he is old enough to ask, when he is old enough to wonder, he will know his Dottie was never absent. She was always here, loving him in silence. That night, the silence pressed so heavy against me that I could not sleep. My heart felt swollen with words unsaid, love unspoken. If I could not hold my grandchild, then at least I would let my voice live on paper. I pulled out a notebook and pen, lit the lamp, and began to write. My dear grandson, I do not know if you will read this when you are small, or if years will pass before you find these words. I do not even know if I will still be alive when you hold this page in your hands, but I know this: you must know me. You must know that from the moment you were born, I loved you. I prayed for you before I saw your face. I stitched clothes for you before I touched your skin. I dreamed of you before you opened your eyes. But your parents did not let me near. They said I would embarrass them. They said my sari, my slippers, my simplicity would bring them shame. Do not believe that, child, never believe it. Clothes do not define worth. Simplicity is not shame. Poverty is not disgrace. The only disgrace in this world is forgetting the hands that built your tomorrow. Asterisk, asterisk, I paused, my tears falling onto the paper. The ink smudged, but I continued, asterisk, asterisk, I raised your mother with hunger in my belly but hope in my heart. I sold what little I had so she could study. I walked miles so she could have medicine. I worked nights so she could dream of daylight. If today she has chosen to hide me, it does not erase my love. If today she has silenced me, it does not silence my prayers. And one day, when you are old enough to see beyond the curtain of pride, you will know the truth that your grandmother was never a stain to be hidden. She was the soil beneath your roots. Asterisk, asterisk, I folded the page carefully, slipping it into an envelope. On the front, I wrote only 2 words. For you. Then I placed it inside the trunk, nestled beside the blanket and cap. My hands rested there for a long while, as if the paper itself could feel the warmth of my palms. If you believe every grandchild deserves to know their grandmother's truth, please comment respect below. Let's make sure no love is buried in silence. That night, I sat by the cradle, the empty cradle that had once waited with me. My voice trembled as I whispered aloud. My dear one, I may not rock you to sleep. I may not hold you against my chest, but my words will cradle you. My prayers will follow you. My love will walk beside you, even if my shadow cannot. I thought my legacy would be my presence at his birth. But instead, my legacy became ink paper and prayers whispered in the dark. The blanket sat on the table, folded neatly but never touched. Each time my eyes landed on it, I felt as though it were staring back at me, asking, why was I made, if not to hold love? One morning, I could no longer bear its silence. I lifted it gently, pressing it to my face. The wool carried the faint scent of my hands, of the oil I had rubbed into the yarn before knitting. I imagined how it would have smelled if it had touched the baby's skin milk powder, the sweetness of new life. But it never had. Beside it lay the tiny cap I had made. I slipped it over my palm, the little stitches stretching slightly, perfect for a newborn's head. Tears blurred my vision. I had dreamt of placing it myself, of adjusting it softly and kissing the forehead beneath it. Instead, my wrinkled fingers trembled inside the empty fabric. I took a deep breath and whispered, no love is ever wasted. Then, slowly, I folded the blanket and cap together, wrapping them in soft muslin cloth. My hands shook as I tied the bundle with string. To anyone else, it might have looked like I was simply packing away old cloth, but in truth, I was sealing a piece of my heart. I placed the bundle inside the wooden trunk by my bed, the same trunk where I had once stored her baby clothes, her school prizes, her old letters. That trunk had always been a vault of memory. Now it became a vault of love denied. As I closed the lid, the creak of the hinges sounded like a sigh. If you believe no grandmother's handmade love should ever go unused, please share this story. Let's remind the world of the sacrifices elders make silently. That evening, I lit incense and placed the trunk before me. The smoke curled upward, carrying my whispered prayer. Little one, may this blanket keep you warm in spirit, even if it never touches your skin. May this cap guard your head with love, even if it never rests upon you. May you one day know that you were never alone. Never unloved, not for a single breath. The house was silent, yet I felt as though the walls themselves were listening. The air was thick with unshed tears, but also with dignity. I told myself, I may not be there to hold him, but I am here to bless him. And sometimes, blessings travel farther than hands. Still, when the night fell and I lay in bed, my body ached with emptiness. The cradle beside me remained untouched. Its emptiness seemed louder than the ticking clock, louder than the crickets outside, louder even than my own breathing. I turned to face the trunk, whispering, you hold what I could not give. Keep it safe, until truth finds its way to him. I thought being a grandmother meant carrying a baby in my arms. But for me, it meant carrying love in silence, wrapping it in muslin, and locking it away. I stayed home. I told myself I would not go where I was unwanted, but my heart could not sit still. It beat against my ribs like a bird trapped in a cage. Every hour, I imagined the moment my grandchild entered the world. Did the baby cry loudly? Did the nurse lift the little one and smile? Was my daughter exhausted, lying on the hospital bed, her eyes heavy but shining with pride? These were the moments I had waited for, and yet, I was miles away, locked inside four walls, like a guest in my own life. I busied my hands to quiet my thoughts. I cooked Kia, letting the milk boil slowly, stirring with patience. The smell filled the house, soft and sweet. I told myself, when they come home, I will feed it to them. My grandchild's first taste from my hand will be this. But the pot sat untouched. The Kia grew cold. Night fell, and no one came. I finally poured it down the drain, watching it disappear into the earth. It felt like pouring my love into emptiness. The next day, I cleaned the small cradle I had saved since her own infancy. I washed the sheets, tucked them neatly, and set it by my bed. I whispered to myself, when they come, I will rock the baby here. I will sing the lullabies that once put her to sleep. I will tell the stories she begged to hear. But the cradle remained empty, a hollow space mocking my hope. Each night, I looked at it and felt my heart ache with silence. If you believe no grandmother should ever wait beside an empty cradle, please like this video. Let's honor the love of waiting hearts. News finally came. Not from her, but from a neighbor who had relatives in the hospital. It's a boy, she said cheerfully, healthy and strong. I smiled through tears. A boy, my grandson, my blood, my prayer answered. But the joy was sharp, for it came without touch, without sight, without the warmth of him against my chest. I longed to whisper in his ear, your Dottie is here. But my lips touched only air. That evening, I lit a daya and placed it by the cradle. I whispered a blessing into the flame. Grow strong, my child. Grow kind. Grow with love. Even if you do not know me today, may you one day feel my prayers wrapping around you like a shawl. But the shawl I wanted to wrap him in the blanket I had knitted still sat folded in its bag. Each time I looked at it, my chest tightened. It was as though all my love had been stitched into those threads. And now it lay rejected, untouched. I thought motherhood was sacrifice enough, but grandmotherhood, I was learning, could be a sacrifice too when children chose shame over love. The next day, I gathered courage. I told myself, she is only nervous. Once she sees me, she will forget her fears. I walked slowly toward the hospital, clutching the small bag with the blanket and cap inside. My feet trembled, but my heart whispered stubbornly, a child always needs her mother. When I reached the courtyard, I stopped. I saw them before they saw me, her in-laws, gathered under the shade of a tree, speaking in hushed voices that carried just far enough. She wants her mother to stay away, one of the women said, adjusting her bangles. And she's right. Have you seen her? Always in that same faded sari, worn slippers, hair tied anyhow. What will people think if she walks into the ward like that? Another laughed lightly. Yes, yes. People will talk. They'll say the bride came from nothing. Better to keep such mothers hidden. Their words sliced through me, each syllable sharp as glass. Keep such mothers hidden. I pressed myself against the wall, hoping they would not see me. My hands clutched the bag so tightly the twine cut into my palms. Hidden. That was what I had become. Not a root, not a strength, not a blessing, only something to be covered. Like dust swept under a rug. I remembered the years when I hid myself for her. When she was small, I shielded her from hunger by pretending I had already eaten. I hid my tears so she would never see the despair in my eyes. I hid my exhaustion so she could walk proudly into her classroom, never knowing how many nights I had worked to pay her fees. But those were sacrifices made out of love. This hiding was made out of shame. And it was not mine, it was hers. If you believe no mother should ever be treated as a stain to be hidden, please subscribe. Let's stand for the dignity of every parent. I stepped back slowly, my heart pounding, the voices of her in-laws still ringing in my ears. My feet refused to carry me forward into that ward. My hands refused to lift the curtain between me and my daughter. Instead, I turned away. Each step back home felt heavier, as though chains were wrapped around my ankles. By the time I reached my chair, I sank into it like stones sinking into water. The bag slipped from my lap, the blanket spilling slightly from its folds. My fingers brushed it, and I whispered, I knitted you with love, little one, but they will not let me give you even this. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The laughter of her in-laws echoed in my mind, mocking me. And underneath it, my daughter's voice joined theirs. Don't embarrass me. I pressed my palms together and whispered, God, give me strength. Let me survive this silence. Let my love reach my grandchild, even if my arms cannot. I thought a hospital would be the place where new life began, where families grew closer. But for me, it became the place where my own blood erased me. The phone call echoed in my mind, word by word. Don't embarrass me. Those 3 words carried more weight than all the bundles of firewood I had lifted in my life. They pressed against my chest, crushing the air from me. I sat with the gift bag in my lap, staring at the blanket I had knitted. Every stitch was made in hope. Every knot carried a prayer. Yet suddenly, it looked small, pitiful, unworthy like me. Later that evening, my son-in-law's sister came to fetch some clothes from the house. I thought perhaps she would give me news of my daughter, perhaps even smile at me. Instead, she looked me up and down, her eyes lingering on my worn sari, my cracked slippers, my thin hands. She smirked and said, Badgie said it is better you stay away. You know how the in-laws are. They want everything neat, polished. If you go like this, people will talk. Like this, I repeated softly. She shrugged. Yes, old sari, simple slippers. You'll draw attention. She doesn't want that scene in the hospital. Her words were meant to be casual, but each one dug deeper into me. Old sari, simple slippers. As though I were nothing more than rags stitched together. Not a mother who had carried life in her body. I lowered my gaze, my throat burning. Do they not know? I whispered. Do they not know these slippers carried me through nights of hunger to fetch medicine? Do they not know this? Sari shielded her from storms when she was a child. Do they not know my simplicity is not poverty, but sacrifice? But no one answered. She had already left, her words lingering like smoke in the air. If you believe no mother should ever be judged for her clothes or simplicity, please like this video. Let's give honor back to sacrifice. That night, I took off my sari and held it close, pressing the fabric to my face. I smelled faint traces of the soap I had scrubbed it with, the faint scent of smoke from my stove, the sweat of my work. To others, it was just cloth. To me, it was history. I laid out my slippers by the bed. They were cracked, yes, their straps worn, but they had carried me through storms. Through floods, through endless walks to school gates. They had carried me to the temple to pray for her exams, to the doctor to beg for her medicine, to the market to earn every rupee I could. If they embarrassed her now, then her foundation itself was an embarrassment. I remembered her as a young woman, preparing for her wedding. She had cried in my lap, nervous about leaving home. I stroked her hair and whispered, "Never be ashamed of where you come from, Betty. Never be ashamed of me. I am your strength, not your weakness." She had nodded then, tears soaking into my sari. But today, she had forgotten. Today, she had chosen polished pride over the raw truth of her roots. I sat by the window, the moonlight spilling across the room. My heart whispered bitterly, perhaps she has outgrown me. Perhaps in her new world, my love looks shabby, my presence looks poor. But then another voice inside me rose. No, a mother's worth is not measured by her sari, nor by her slippers, nor by the shine of her jewelry. It is measured by the lives she has carried and the love she has given. Still, I could not escape the sting of her words. I thought the hospital would be the place where I was honored as the root of her life. But instead, it became the place where she chose to hide me like a stain. After she hung up, I sat in silence, the phone still in my hand, the bag of gifts beside me, my heart pounding with a pain I had no words for. Her words, "Don't embarrass me," echoed through my chest like a cruel drumbeat. Embarrass. Was I an embarrassment to my own blood? My eyes drifted back through the years, as though memory could answer that question. I remembered her first fever. She was only 3, her body burning so hot I thought she might slip away from me. I held her all night, pressing a wet cloth to her forehead, whispering prayers with trembling lips. My eyes never closed, not even for a moment, until dawn broke and her small chest rose steady again. I remembered her hunger, the years when food was scarce, and I pretended my stomach was full so she could eat my portion. I watched her lick the last crumbs of bread, my own belly aching, but my heart swelling because she was fed. I remembered her school days, how I stitched her uniform from old cloth, patching holes carefully so no one would laugh at her, how I polished her shoes with oil because I could not afford polish, rubbing until they shone enough to fool the world. I remembered her first exam, how she cried, afraid of failing. I held her close, saying, "You are strong, Betty, you are my pride, you can do this." She passed, and she had run home to me, waving her mark sheet in triumph. My heart had nearly burst with pride. I remembered the day she dreamed of going to college. The fees were too high, but I did not let her know my fear. I worked extra hours, stitching, cleaning, running errands, my hands cracked from labor. But when she walked into that classroom for the first time, head high with ambition, I told myself every blister was worth it. She studied late into the night, and I sat beside her, lamp glowing, keeping her company so she would not feel alone. Sometimes I nodded off, but each time she turned the page, I whispered encouragement. "One more, Betty, just one more." I had lived not for myself, but for her. Every sacrifice, every hunger, every sleepless night I bore them gladly, because I dreamed of this day. The day she would hold her own child. The day I would stand beside her, proud, carrying my grandchild in my arms. And now, that day had come. But instead of pride, I was told my presence would shame her. If you believe no mother's sacrifices should ever be repaid with shame, please subscribe. Let's give dignity back to forgotten mothers. I touched my sari, the one she said would embarrass her. My fingers traced the faded fabric, the thin edges, the worn places. Yes, it was old. Yes, it was simple. But it was also the same sari I had worn when I first walked her to school. The same sari I had wrapped around her shivering body during storms. The same sari that had soaked my tears and my sweat as I worked for her future. If this sari was shameful, then her foundation was shame itself. I remembered another night she was 16, angry at the world, angry at poverty. She had shouted, "Why are we so poor? Why can't I have what others have?" I had stood silently, letting her vent her pain. And when she calmed, I had said, "Betty, we may not have riches, but we have dignity. We have honesty. And one day, these will shine brighter than gold." I thought she believed me then. I thought my words had rooted in her heart, but now, her own lips had uprooted them with one sentence, "Don't embarrass me." That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The world outside was silent, but inside me, storms raged. I whispered to the darkness, was I only a stepping stone? A path she used to rise higher, now left behind. Did all my sacrifices build, not pride, but shame? The silence answered back. I thought my daughter's greatest gift to me would be honor. But instead, her greatest wound to me was disgrace. I had never slept that night. My daughter was in the hospital, and I was to become a grandmother again. The thought filled me with trembling joy. I lit a dia at dawn and whispered, "Today, I will hold a new heartbeat in my arms." I pulled out my best sari, the pale blue one, faded but neat, and ironed it carefully. My hands smoothed each crease, as if smoothing my own excitement. I placed 2 small gifts into a bag, a soft blanket I had knitted from old wool, and a tiny cap to keep the newborn's head warm. Every stitch had carried a prayer. I was ready. The phone rang just as I tied the knot on the bag. My daughter's voice came through, strained but firm. "Ma," she said. "Don't come." I froze, the bag slipping slightly from my hands. "Don't come? But Beta, this is the day, your day. I have waited for this moment. I want to see you, to hold the baby." Her words cut me short. "Ma, please, don't embarrass me in front of my in-laws. They'll all be there. I don't want you showing up in your old clothes, looking like that." The silence after her words pressed against my chest like a heavy stone. Embarrass, like I was a stain to be hidden, not a mother to be honored. I swallowed hard, my voice trembling. "Beta, I am your mother. I carried you through fevers, through hunger, through storms. How can my presence shame you?" But the line stayed silent for a moment, then ended with only one sentence. "Just stay home, Ma." The click of the phone was louder than thunder. If this moment broke your heart the way it broke mine, please subscribe so more voices of forgotten mothers can be heard. I sat in my chair, the bag of gifts beside me. The blanket and cap I had knitted felt suddenly heavy, like burdens instead of blessings. My daughter's words echoed again and again. "Don't embarrass me." I thought the proudest day of my life would be standing by her side, welcoming my grandchild. But instead, the cruelest day had come, where my presence was treated as shame.